Welcome back everyone to Watercolor Wednesday here on Art a la Carte. And in this episode we're going to be sewing? We're not sewing, we're painting. But I'm going to show you how to paint a really easy mountain scene. And it looks super cool, but you're not going to believe how easy it is. If you haven't watched any of my beginning tutorials on Watercolor Wednesdays, I would recommend that you watch those first, and I'll put the link to the playlist for those in the description box below so you can check those out. And so yeah, let's get started. Okay, so before we get to this painting, a couple things I want to talk to you about painting mountains and even drawing mountains and things in general is the farther they get away, the fuzzier they get. Light diffuses things, so as things get farther, they get less defined. So they're going to get a little lighter in color. And as they get closer to you, they're going to get darker in color. Also, when you're drawing things, anything that's higher up on your paper is usually far away. If you kind of look at this as a landscape, this is like your horizon line here. Things you draw up here at the horizon line are farther away. And as they get closer, you will draw them lower and lower and lower on your paper. So something else to remember. So I'm going to be using my regular palette. What I'm going to do here first is I am going to just give a nice clean wash to my upper part of the paper. And this is going to be from my sky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it very, very light. And I'm going to pull in a little bit of a grayish blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of this and I'm going to a little bit of that. And a little bit of this, and I'm going to mix it till I get just this kind of foggy gray. I'm going to put a little bit of purple in there, just a hint. I want it really loose color, and I'm just going to start tapping that color in there and just washing it across there. And some of my swipes will be a little bit darker than others. And as I lay it in there, I can kind of decide if I want to go darker. But I'm just doing this top part because the rest of this is going to be my mountain range, and you're not going to see that too much. So I'm just giving some little bit of interest. Into my sky. Keeping it nice and wet. Okay, so this technique one of my art teachers showed me, and it was really, really fun. So you take just a tissue, and you're just going to blot, kind of dab that around, and it's going to pull up and make it kind of look like clouds. And you don't want to rub, but you want to blot. And the harder you push, the puffier white the clouds will be. Both the clouds and the sky are kind of a light color anyway, so they're not going to show up super bright. If you do this in a darker color, it might be a little bit stronger of a contrast, but it's really fun. So you can see how I got a nice little clouds in there, and you can kind of play around with that. So I'm going to let this dry for a second, and I'm going to start putting in my mountain ranges. I'm going to start with the farthest ones back first, and then I'm going to move down. So again, these first mountain ranges that I'm going to do are going to be really, really light in color in comparison to the ones I might be doing down here a little bit. And so you probably won't be able to see it, but when you're doing yours, just get your light and your head in a position that you can see the reflection of your light. And I'm just going to draw in just a very simple mountain range, just, you know, like a bump and a bump. And I'm going to bring the wash down just a little bit. Now I have to move quickly on this part. I'm going to pick up kind of a grayish blue, a little bit darker than what I did my skies with. And I'm going to tap this into the top color. I'm just going to draw this along there. Because it's wet, it's going to draw this down. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to tip my paper. So I'm going to take my roll of tape and I'm going to stick this underneath there. It's going to add a little bit of gravity pull. Because now I'm going to go back over this with some more water. And I'm going to go across here. And see how it just kind of pulls it down. I'm going to rinse my brush out really good. I'm going to dry it off. And now I'm just going to swipe this across here. And I'm going to fade this down. I'm going to cause this to be a gradient. But you'll see I have a nice kind of crest of color right up here. And then as it comes down, it fades. And this is going to give me kind of my Misty Mountains look. And I'm not worried too much about this part down here because I'm going to end up putting another mountain range. What I really want is I want this nice fading color right from here down to here, and I want to keep it straight, look like the mist is rolling in a little bit. So this painting is going to require you to wait a lot to allow your paint to dry before you add in something else, because otherwise your mountains are going to run in together. So if you have a blow dryer, you can just take it on just on a low setting. You don't want to blast your painting away, but you can just kind of blow dry that and it'll dry a little faster. So now I'm going to go ahead and start getting ready to do my next mountain range, and I'm going to go ahead and pre-mix up my color because you have to really move fast on this. You can't let your paint dry or your water dry. And so I want a color that's a little bit darker than what it was before. So this was the color here I used. I'm going to add a little bit more purple to that and a little bit more kind of my darker shades in here. I'm going to add just a little bit more to that. A little purple in there though. And I get the shade that I want. Then with a clean brush and lots of water, you're going to create your next mountain range. The thing you don't want to do is you don't want to follow the exact same shape. You want to go different. So I'm going to start up high and come down and then go down. So like this. And again, add lots of water, and if you can't see it, just get your head to where you can see the shine. And then you're going to add that color that we mixed up. You want to put it right on that line. And you can change that line if you want. You're like, oh, I like it to go a little bit higher maybe. And you could overlap your mountains, have a mountain coming up. So I'm going to have this one kind of coming up just a little bit right there in that corner. Because the paint has just been laid down, it's really easy to reconstitute it. It's okay to get a little texture in there. Once you have that mountain range in the way you like it, add just a little bit darker. Then you're going to clean your brush off and you're going to just swish the paint and cause it to fall. So you're going to get that nice gradient coming down. So now you have this nice little valley in between the two mountains and some nice fog in between there. Just very, very pretty. So I dried this one so my paper's nice and dry again. So again, I'm going to mix up my colors and again getting a little bit darker. So I'm going to continue adding a little bit more purple. Some purple here, so I got some nice purple. Rinse that off. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in my next mountain. So this one I'm starting down low, and I'm going to come up, and then I'm going to go right up over top of this mountain here. So I'm going to kind of scrub that paint a little bit to erase that. And then I'm going to clean my brush because my brush is kind of pulling up some of the paint. And I want it to be nice and clean, so then I'm going to go ahead and go right in there. Okay, now I'm going to grab my color, I'm going to lay that in there. Okay, and I really want this to start getting darker, so I'm really going to actually scrub in a little bit more of my darker color, and then I'm going to add a little bit more blue, a little bit more purple, a little bit more red, a little bit of grayish brown. I'm going to tap that in there because I want to start pulling in some darker shades there. It's always easier to go back and add more color or tint. It's harder to kind of pull it out sometimes, but it's, you can totally do it. But I always try to add a little bit at a time to see what I like. Add a little bit of green in there. Maybe we're starting to see a little bit of forest trees in there. This is where you're just following your instinct and you're playing. Watercolor is all about playing with color and seeing what happens and textures that your brushes make. Okay, once you get it the color and shade you like, rinse that brush off, clean water, and pull your gradient down. And if you want to add a little bit more fog to here, do the same thing you did with your clouds. Let's try that. Let's just tap out some of that color. So we're going to have a really nice fog bank in here. So it's kind of a harder gradient. It kind of comes down gradient and then really fuzzes out really fast. And you get a really good technique by using your tissue to do that. Again, remember, don't rub, just blot. Okay, so let's try this. Okay, for this last mountain range, we're going to go really dark. So I'm going to add in a lot of dark browns to this as well to kind of get my dark color. But I'm going to pull it down. I really want to have a nice valley here with some hidden you know, kind of Hidden Valley, sounds like ranch dressing. So I'm going to pull my next one down here. I'm going to leave a lot of that going on there. So I'm going to pull in my mountain range and then pull it down. Okay, I'm going to add that color in there. It's not dark enough. I'm going to go back in and darken it in with some darker browns and grays and blues. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to go ahead and bring this down, because this is actually going to be where we're standing as a viewer. But you can see this is the basic technique I wanted to show you, was to be able to create these gradient mountain ranges, and you could do a lot of fun things with it. Done. This is a great piece to give as a gift to someone. It's impressive looking, but as you guys saw, though it does take a little time, it's fairly easy on the techniques. It might take a little practice getting the trees down, but you don't even have to put trees in yours. You could just do the mountain range, and that's just all about controlling your gradients and where your water goes, and drawing your painting in between. Thank you guys for joining me on this Watercolor 101, and I hope that you give this a try, that you practice this technique out, and if you do, I'd love to see it, so make sure to post your pictures to my Facebook and Instagram, and I'll leave the links to those in the description box below. So keep painting, and until next time, God bless you guys, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.